This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed. G'day, I'm Kate Watson. Richard Scolyer is our 2024 Joint Australian of the Year, alongside his colleague and friend, Professor Georgina Long. He's a pathologist and also alongside Georgina shares the job of Medical Director of the Melanoma Institute of Australia. Less than a decade ago, advanced melanoma was fatal. But thanks in part to their work in immunotherapy, it has become a curable disease. Incredible. However, in June 2023, Richard was diagnosed with incurable grade 4 brain cancer. With an average survival rate of 14 months, it's now been 18 months since his diagnosis. Why? No one knows. Could be luck, or it could be because of his world-first approach to treatment. When diagnosed, Richard, Georgina Long and the immunotherapy team decided to trial, with Richard as the guinea pig, a pre-surgery combination immunotherapy, a personalised cancer vaccine, and Richard opted not to have chemotherapy. Richard is an experiment playing out very publicly before our eyes. Throughout this conversation, we talk about the science, but more so the experience of being Richard. It was a huge honour to meet him. He's instantly warm and generous, gentle, and at the same time, you can tell, very driven. Naturally, it's an emotional chat. It's also our final News Club interview for the year. So a big thank you for listening and bring on 2025. Richard, you've made a very conscious decision to be honest and very public about what you're going through. You write in the book, and I'll read you back the quote, "For a pathologist who spent decades talking publicly about data and public health campaigns, I was now having to reflect emotionally about life and death, not just privately but publicly." You say you found this difficult. How often, I really want to ask, do you just want to hide away and handle this between yourself and your family?
No, definitely at times when you're going through it, it's sort of an up and down journey that you're going through, and there are times when it's tough. I do take time on my own and go and do things that to take my mind off troublesome things that have happened. And to be honest, it's not just the cancer journey. Perhaps that's the easier part. It's some of the other aspects of life that have been turned upside down as a consequence of having to go through this journey. Different parts of your life have to change, and not always easy.
Do you get recognised?
In the street, you mean publicly? Yeah, sometimes. To be honest, I'll tell you a story, maybe I shouldn't, but one time Georgina and I were going down to launch the Sun Safety in Sport position statement with the Australian Institute of Sport, and we're running late, and we're in the line to get a taxi at Canberra Airport, and there was the line was really long, and I thought, oh, gee, we're going to make it or not, and I often catch Ubers. Yeah. So I said, shouted out, anyone know where the Uber line is? And all these people turned around and knew who we were.
Attention on you. Yeah.
I don't think we were even Australians of the Year at that stage, but it was in late December last year, and then made me realise, a lot of people recognise you, but don't make it public.
Don't say anything to you. Yeah. And I mean, you've got the book out now with your face on it, and it's probably going to be increasingly the case. And I suppose Canberra would be the place where you'd be recognised the most also.
No, I don't know. But, I guess that's just a side effect, consequence. It's certainly not the main driver to write the book, but just nice to be able to explain or go through my life and the cancer journey that I'm on now. And to be honest, when this idea came up, there was an approach to the Melanoma Institute about me writing a book, and there's a lot of encouragement to do so. Perhaps I was a little nervous and unsure whether this is something that I wanted to do. And after more discussions and meeting with people, decided to take it on. And I think Yeah, a lot of reasons for doing it, but one of the biggest ones for me is I think back in my own life, I can't remember things that happened 10 years ago or not that well, and I thought, well, most likely that I'd be dead before the book came out. So I thought this is a way of leaving a memoir for my children especially.
It's such, and having read it, and I'll ask you to speak about your family a bit later, but it is such a legacy piece for them. Like, you can feel the love coming through the book. So it is really beautiful in that way, and I think you've absolutely achieved that. Tell us about something you're more comfortable talking about, which is immunotherapy. Why is it so exciting?
When I started in working in melanoma 25 years ago, it was different back then. It was basically there was no systemic therapies to improve life expectancy for patients if it had spread around the body. So but I think just like it was back then, if you detect melanoma early and have it treated appropriately, which is with surgical excision, most people will be cured of their melanoma. So about 90 to 95% of people are cured. Earlier you detect it, the better. So that still remains the number one thing for all Australians. Know the skin you're in. If you see something that's new or changing, go and see your doctor. And if it turns out to be melanoma, if it's picked up early, most people will be cured. The thing that's really changed is, as I mentioned, up until about 12 years ago, and maybe a little bit longer than that, we didn't have any effective drug therapies that worked if the melanoma had spread around your body. So most people would be dead within a year. 5-year survival rate was less than 5%. But principally because of discoveries that have been made in immunotherapy, now 5-year survival rate is 57%, and we think most of those people have been cured. So, yeah, it's been truly incredible to be part of that journey. But, it's not something that I claim as the person who invented it or leading the clinical trials. But, we all play an important part. If you want to achieve anything in life, you have to work as a committed team of people with complementary skill sets. And by doing that, you can make a difference. And, yeah, I'm very proud of what we've achieved in melanoma and the big difference that's made.
How do you, as a scientist, I guess, or as a scientific team would be the best way to describe it, how do you explain to the lay person who isn't a scientist and who doesn't work in medicine what immunotherapy actually does?
Yeah, so basically, your immune system is very important to your body. If you get an infection or even if you cut yourself, your body's immune system gets stimulated to try and fix up problems. So if it's an infection, the immune cells, so predominantly lymphocytes, but there's many other types of immune cells, will identify something that shouldn't be there and do something about it. If it's an infection, kill off the bugs. If it's a cut to your arm, for example, the immune system will be stimulated to react to the damage that's been done, heal it up, and then it turns itself off afterwards. And in fact, what we think happens is that many people actually develop cancers and the body's immune system recognises the cancer that shouldn't be there. It's not your normal cells, and attacks them and kills it off before you ever know about it.
Yeah,
and
right.
What the cancers do that you do find out about, they put up shields or protect themselves from your body's immune system, so your immune cells can't identify them and kill them off, if you like. So that's a barrier, and that's been a problem in curing cancer. So the beauty about immunotherapy is through a variety of mechanisms, it breaks through that shield that's stopping the normal immune cells to come in and attack the cancer cells and knock them off. So this is different to other types of therapy. So for we in melanoma, we have types of targeted therapy that look for abnormalities in the DNA that drive the tumour cancer cells to proliferate. You can block those, but they don't seem as effective long term. And immunotherapy is different. It's training your body's own immune system to recognise cancer cells and to knock them off.
And the reason I wanted you to explain it is because this is the principle you're applying to your glioblastoma now, this brain cancer that you have. This is what you're using, and this is the theory behind it. You're just one person, though, at this point. And I appreciate how careful you've been to say, we don't know if this is working or not yet. Like, this could be luck.
Yeah.
This could be the part of the solution. And I'm sure you are so conscious there'd be people listening to you constantly who have a similar diagnosis to you or prognosis to you.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess I'm curious about, explaining the process from here, so that if you do actually think this might be a therapy you can use on other people, what is the process here on out for others?
Well, clearly, I hope for myself, obviously, but for all cancer patients, we can change the field and make better outcomes for people. But as you said, that when we talk about survival, we talk about we have these bell-shaped survival curves. And when we talk about the average, or what we call median survival, that's in the middle of that curve. Some patients die earlier than the average, and some patients live longer. So at the edge of those curves, there's people who survive longer. And from one patient, you can't tell whether me being alive now and haven't had a recurrence yet, whether it being luck or whether it's related to the treatment. And you need a clinical trial to actually test two groups of patients and see whether or not the therapy worked. The real thing that for us in melanoma, and that the laboratory team of researchers that Georgina and I lead have done amazing things in melanoma, where we've compared pre-neoadjuvant or pre-surgery tumour specimens with the specimen that's taken after the patients had immunotherapy. And when we compare them, we see marked differences. And that's one of the beauties of what we could do in my brain cancer, is compare my tumour before I had immunotherapy with what it was like a few weeks later. And that provides some hope. It showed that there was an increase in the number of immune cells, and they'd changed, the type of immune cells that were present had changed. So hopefully this will be published very soon, but it gives some hope. But it doesn't mean that it actually works, but it sort of gives more enthusiasm that this is a clinical trial question that needs to be addressed.
And how quickly can, you think about people listening who will have a glioblastoma and they'll be hanging on your every word. Like, how quickly could that happen? And, you are a sort of a beacon of hope, but this stuff, as I understand it in health, takes time, and probably frustratingly so.
Yeah, it's not my area of expertise. In some ways, I feel guilty that I've had this opportunity that no one else has had, and may or may not work. But I don't know, maybe that's not, I shouldn't feel like that, but I do. And when I hear about other people's stories and the very sad journeys that they're going through, but ultimately we need to get a clinical trial up and running, and I know people are working towards doing that. As I say, it's not my area of expertise to start a clinical trial. The oncologists do that, and there's a lot of work that needs to go into developing protocols, the ethics approval, etc., and funding to get it off the ground. But I know people are working very hard to make that happen. I hope it's not too far away, but I don't know when that's going to be.
I can, because it's a podcast, people can't see you, but like the empathy is bursting from you. So I think that's important to put out there. I guess the other thing that is interesting to me is your relationship with Georgina. Maybe not the right time to ask you, because that's such a special situation that you have. So you're co-Australians of the Year, you're co-directors of the Melanoma Institute. You're obviously very good friends and long-time colleagues. Just talk to me about Georgina and what she means to you, I guess.
Well, we've known each other for a long time. My wife went to university with Georgina. I met her when I was in my, as a registrar in the late 90s, working at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. We obviously went in different paths and started working together when she came back as a fellow at the institute. So, some time ago. But working together, I think we've been able to use complementary skill sets to team up with a great team of people, and we might be flying the flag as the heads, but honestly, the truth is there's this amazing team of people with multidisciplinary skill sets who are willing to give up parts of their life to try and make a difference for patients, not just the ones that we treat actively at the Melanoma Institute, which is actually the world's largest melanoma treatment and research centre, but many other patients around the world, many times, the ones that we actually see. So, that the friendship, our leadership and the team of people we work with has made an amazing difference. And I guess I feel very fortunate to be in a position to try and make a difference in brain cancer. Actually, something came up with me the other day that I actually just posted on social media that the standard way of treating brain cancer, the type that I've got, is called the Stupp protocol, after this guy Roger Stupp, who's a neuro-oncologist, and he developed and led the trial that was done, which showed the use of a chemotherapy called temozolomide that begins when you start your radiotherapy and keeps going for 6 months. That I said I haven't had. He was asked about this treatment path that I was going down, and it was early on in the stage. I forget if it was BBC News or Bloomberg, but he said something along the lines of, so I mightn't have this exactly right, but something along the lines of, if Scolyer's still tumour recurrence at 12 months or even 18 months, then I'll start to get excited.
Then I'll get excited. I saw this, yes,
So...
so it's time to get excited?
Yeah, I hope so. And, I hope, I'm already getting this feedback from people who are experts in the field that it is having an impact. Whether it actually changes treatment, we won't know for some time. But, I'm pleased but what we've done by me going down this path, it's pushed the field forward in a way that would normally take many, many years to get down that path.
Richard, one of the things that comes through and that a lot of people will know you for is you're very committed to exercise. You're very active, and so much so that in reading the book, at one point you were going for a 5K run, and then by the end you're doing triathlons, and I know it's still a very big part of your life. There are a lot of people out there who are...
5K is pretty short. I normally go much longer than that.
But I think that's how you started, right? Like you started with that and now you're incredibly committed. But what happens with athletes, as you would well know, is that you become very in tune with your body and, you're very conscious of it all the time. And I'm just curious now, you're also a clinician who knows a lot about the body, and then you're also now someone living with cancer. What is it like to be that in tune with yourself and your body?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm that in tune with myself, with my body.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's a reflection of my personality more than anything else that I try and hide it. But the truth is I'm dedicated, hardworking, and I guess my ego wants to achieve things, and I guess exercise is part of that. I was talking to someone and they're telling me there's sort of two groups of people who have different ways of relaxing and helping them out in their life, and there's some who are exercise and there's some who's not. Don't try and change whichever group that you fall into.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, triathlons I started doing in my 20s, so it's for a very long time, and playing sport was big part of my childhood, and not working hard at school, that was definitely not what I was interested in.
You did say, though, that is really interesting that you've drawn that connection between, you sort of grapple with this around being so driven. Like there's a section of the book where you talk about being very competitive and very driven, and you say, and I'll read you back to you, you've just sort of said it, but I've tried to downplay it, but I know that deep inside I've been very driven for as long as I can remember. How do you think about that as part of your I guess, survival thus far?
Yeah, God, that's another tough question that you're asking me, Katie. Well, I think back when I was a kid, you don't hide your inner self. You're
You are who
out
you
there.
are.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I remember my dad was a big AFL player, so we'd kick the footy a lot. And my brother, he's a much better sportsman than me, and I'd spit the dummy. I'd always want to try and achieve things, and never as good as him swimming, whatever. But then when you become an adult, well, for me, it's actually worked well, from my perspective, in a positive way. So very driven to make changes to the fields that I work in medicine, but I'm also very proud of how I've mentored people who've come up in quite a big way, to be honest. That there's been a team of people who, when they work together, you achieve a lot.
Like you've kind of harnessed it in the right way, and that's something you're proud of.
Yeah, really proud of.
I think that's right.
But how is it? Yeah, how is it now? I guess. Well, the truth is that there's some people who are risk averters, and perhaps I'm a bit more of a risk taker. I don't think a silly one, but weighing things up. I'm happy to have a crack at things, and
You say leap in.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Don't just lean in, leap in. But if you see something that needs to be changed, and be bold, be courageous, and don't just lean in, leap in. And that's how you can make a difference in things, in all aspects of life. And that's what I'm trying to do in brain cancer, with great support from an amazing multidisciplinary team.
I think what I'm kind of getting at is, I guess, your reflections on the power of the mind. I think the old adage is, hope keeps you alive. Are you just a pure scientist about this, or do you think there's something to that for you?
Well said, Kate. In some ways, understanding the science and medicine is really helpful. You just understand.
You can be practical or something?
The process you're going through, what the disease is, what the outcomes are, the treatments, investigations, all that. You know that, so that makes it easier. But I guess the other side of the coin is when you know the likely outcomes. That hope side of it takes a little. Well, for me anyway, it took a little bit of time to be able to feel that hope. And I think that's really important, that we talked about the bell-shaped survival curves. No one can predict, are you one of these patients who's going to have a longer life, and irrespective of what the disease is that you've got. And I think live with hope and make the most of every day that you've got. You don't know what's around the corner. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, any of us can be, well, I love riding my bike outside. I can't drive a car, but you're driving your car. You can have accidents. You could be dead like
Anything
that.
Could happen.
Yeah. So I'm lucky that I've got a longer period of time, however long it's going to be, and make the most of every day. Do the things that you like doing. And
it's what I was going to ask you next, because you say, and it sounds so obvious, but you say in the book, you have a specific message for others who are very driven, very ambitious, which is really think, and this is the quote, like, think about what really matters to you, spend more time with your family before it's too late. It sounds obvious, but actually, and then the before and after situation here. You know what you were like before. You knew that, your time might be up, and you know what it's like to live with that.
I think, you shouldn't look back on how you've led your life. You do what you want to do and make yourself happy. And perhaps people could say, look, you've committed too much time to various aspects of your life, but in reality, for me, perhaps some of that's true, but I don't regret it in retrospect. We've, worked hard with a great team of people who are very committed. I've spent a lot of time with my family. We're still very close to my wife, Katie, and the kids. But for me now, who knows how long I've got left, but it's more finite.
What do you do? Like, how do you apply it day to day? Because, I mean, with your family, how do you... It's a really difficult question to ask. Perhaps it's a bit too personal to ask, but how do you every day wake up and go, I'm going to make the most of this day with the people I love?
Well, I haven't quit work. I still work, but special things. Yeah. But spending time with your kids, eating breakfast with them, with Katie going outside, and Katie has very kindly accompanied me on so many Australian of the Year journeys around the country. So we've spent time together, have meals together as a family. I guess. So I'm still going to work, but perhaps in the past I would stay too late at work, and now I'm making sure I get home so we have dinner together as a family when the two older kids are actually at ANU University, but we're all home at the moment, and our youngest daughter, Lucy, is just going into Year 12. But yeah, doing things as a family that are important, and work, it's often short-term things that you tick this box or get this last little bit turned over. I sort of pushing those things to not number one, the short-term things. So, but I think you shouldn't regret things that you've done in the past, but in the future, think about what you want to do and what you want to get out of life and try and fulfill that.
And I appreciated, as a parent, the way you've handled it with your kids. They've got to live their lives. They've got to go out and do things, and they've got to get on with it. And that practicality and that pragmatism that's clearly part of your makeup comes through very strongly.
But I've got to say, when I went to university down in Tasmania, my parents lived in Launceston, so it's about a 2-hour drive away. And they'd say, "Can you come back for the weekend?" And I go, "Oh no, that's too far to drive." And I guess playing football on Saturday made it a little harder. But anyway. Now my kids have been much more generous and kind to me as a parent than what I was to my own parents.
It's probably the most selfish time of your life between sort of 18 and 25. But in fact, you have talked about that your kids seem, this has been for them something that they go... They've reassessed priorities too, perhaps.
I think so. That's what I'm feeling and thinking, and it's very kind and generous of them, and they're really, really special people, and I'm proud of who they've become. And Katie needs them more of a pat on the back than what I do for influencing their personalities. But still, I think we're a team at that one too.
I think that's a really important question, I guess. There'll be a lot of people listening that are going through something where it's not them that are going through whatever the disease is, whatever the illness is. It could be anything, but they're the ones caring for that person, and they're the ones by their side. Do you have anything to say to people in that situation?
I think that's very true. I remember the neuro-oncologist that's been looking after me. She's fantastic. She said I can name her now in public. It's Dr. Helen Wheeler, and she said at the start, look, this is going to be a tough journey for both of you, but it's actually harder for partners than what it is for the individuals. And I feel incredibly lucky that Katie's who she is and been by my side and supporting me through thick and thin for, as I said, some parts of it are easy plain sailing, and there's ups and downs at various aspects of life, and having that support makes life easier. And at times I get upset and angry even at times. I tell the kids if I forget something or, I don't know, something not different to before, I just blame it on my...
You've got an excuse now.
Exactly. And they won't listen to it for a second.
Oh, shout out to Katie, absolutely. Just to finish, Australian of the Year, what was it like to be, you're co-Australian of the Year, alongside Georgina. What has it meant to you to be Australian of the Year? You're sort of coming to the end of your tenure now. You have to hand the baton over in January. Yeah. What did it mean to you, to be awarded it? And then what's it done for you?
Well, it's been an amazing experience. And as part of the journey to become Australian of the Year, you have this opportunity to meet so many incredible people who've who've been recognised for their achievements in all different fields that caught up in my own life. You don't get to meet such a wide cross-section and
I think you said you
people.
went and visited, I don't remember his name, who runs the Dinosaur Museum.
David, up in Winton. I'd never been to
I really want to
Outback
go
Point.
there.
You should go.
Yeah.
It is absolutely fantastic. And that there's been many highlights, but that certainly was one of the highlights of the year for me to go there. So it's been... Georgina and I didn't think we were going to win. There's plenty of other people who deserve to win, both at the New South Wales and Australian level. We hadn't actually practiced our speech properly until we had to go on stage. But it was, it's a great platform for us to be able to talk about the importance of sun safety in our field, our passionate field of melanoma, what we call Australia's national cancer. Prevention is better than cure, so using the platform to get that message out about sun-smart behaviour to prevent melanoma, the importance of early detection, as we discussed earlier.
So with the Know Your Skin, just on that, people have different types of skin, right? So should you actually know a little bit about the makeup of what sort of skin you actually have, or is it just about knowing when something's a little bit different?
Well, it can occur. Melanoma can occur in anyone, basically.
Because you do hear people say, and you're probably going to be frustrated by this, but my skin's not, I've got great skin, or actually I've got really bad skin for melanoma, or is there any fact in that?
There's definitely truth in that. If you have paler skin like me, you've got a much higher risk of getting melanoma from ultraviolet radiation than people with naturally darker skin. It's not tan-induced. Darker skin's not going to be the thing that means you have a lower risk. But there's many other factors: the age of the patient, the number of moles that they've got on their body, the amount of sunburn that they've had, and family history, other skin cancers. So there's many factors, and the government's actually, as part of our Australian of the Year platform we've been standing, and we've asked them to fund various things that we know will save lives for Australians and save the government and taxpayers money, and one of which is to develop a targeted screening program for melanoma. So to define what high-risk patient populations are who need to have regular screening to detect melanoma early. And we've got a team of people, including experts across the country, to define what the criteria are for the high-risk patients who will need regular screening. But for other Australians, we know most melanomas are detected by the patient rather than from a skin check. So you know the skin that you're in, and if you see something new or changing, go and get it checked out by your doctor.
Final message to people listening. Why do this interview? What do you want people to take from you, Richard?
Well, I want to make a difference to people's lives. And like what we're talking about before, life has its ups and downs. Enjoy your life, make the most of it, and
do it with a hat on.
Yeah, do it with that. I love that. But the thing you brought up before about, I think when you face challenges, don't just lean in. But be bold, be courageous, and have a crack, and don't just lean in, leap in, and that's how sometimes you can make a big difference. And I hope that's what happens in not just brain cancer, in all cancers, and we can get to 0 deaths from all cancers.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Kate.
Thanks again. As always, please share this conversation with others. Or just rate the show. 5 stars for the win, and a review is always welcome if you have the time. That's it for 2024. Now I am off to plan for next year. Suggestions also always very welcome. hello@thesquiz.com.au.